Hello book friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vicky and this is Vicky Loves Books. No, not interested? It is a long weekend here in Alberta. It is a beautiful day. The sun is shining and I am alone. That never happens. The husband and the kids have gone to town for a little bit, so I finally film my January wrap-up video. So to start off this January wrap-up video, I thought it would be fun to share some stats from my reading journal. So for the month of January, I read every single day. I also was able to read some different genres. So out of the 14 books that I read in January, 11 of those were romance. I read one fantasy romance. I read one mystery/thriller. And I also read one LGBTQ2S+ romance. I read 13 of these books on my Kindle. And I read one of these books in a traditional formatted paperback. So I started off my New Year's with a bang, and let me tell you, did this baby deliver. This is The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. This is a psychological suspense, and this had me shook, let me tell you. So in The Housemaid, our main character is Millie, and Millie's down on her luck. She just lost her job, so she is looking for employment. She finds an ad for a family who is looking for a live-in nanny, and Millie decides, I'm gonna apply for that. She gets the interview. She is, you know what, I'm probably not going to get this job. They're going to call my references and, you know, it's probably not going to be good news for me. Lo and behold, Millie gets a surprise at the end of the week when she gets a phone call from Nina Winchester asking her if she was still interested in the job and that the nannying position was hers. Millie accepts and she moves into the Winchester family, where it starts to get fun. I want to say how much I loved this book. This was everything that I love in a psychological suspense, thriller, whodunit type book. This was fast-paced, and by fast-paced, I mean it happens over a period of time, but the chapters are so well done that you just eat them up. So at the end of each chapter, they leave on a little bit of a cliffhanger where it's like, oh, I gotta keep reading. Next thing you know, you have devoured the whole book in a day. Chapters were quite short. They aren't like 20-page chapters, so I love that. If I'm reading a book, I like short and sweet chapters. I want the nitty-gritty and I want it now. Each chapter gave me a little piece of the puzzle. This book was anxiety inducing. Like there were times where I'm like it was just a rush in the best possible way. Freida McFadden knows how to write her characters. Absolutely despised some of the characters in here. At the end of the book, my mind had done a complete 180. And I'm like, Freida, what have you done to me? I love the surprises. I love the suspense. I love the huge OMG moments. This delivered. Again, The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. Put this on your TBR. You will not be disappointed. Just going to pop in here and just say all this glare on my glasses is driving me insane. So I'm going to be taking them off as we progress through here. So don't mind me. So the next book that I read in January was Offside by Avery Keelan, and let me tell you, this hit all of my sweet spots. So our main character is Bailey James, and she runs right into womanizing bad boy Chase Carter. Chase Carter is the infamous left-winger Boyd University Falcons. Now, the Boyd University Falcons are her school's team's rival, which extends beyond the ice. Bailey's brother Derek and Bailey's ex-boyfriend play Bruder College Bulldogs, and the Bulldogs and the Falcons have a rivalry, and chef's kiss, top tier, so darn good. So what I loved most about this is the development between Bailey and Chase. This was great. For nearly 600 pages, this developed at such a good pace, where they started off enemies, like, oh, you're from the rival team. They started becoming friends, and then you were starting to get feelings for each other. And I love that. I love develop those feelings where they flow naturally and it's not insta love within the first few chapters. This was great. I absolutely loved that element. I really, really loved that it was sassy, it was flirty, it was spice, was I need me a Chase Carter. So absolutely great. I gave this 5 stars. So the third book that I read in January was Iced Out by C.E. Ricci. This is a standalone sports college romance. This is hockey. This is about Quentin and Oakley. They play on the same hockey team, go to the same college, but they are rivals. The team's been on a bit of a losing streaks, and then one night, one thing leads to another, and they end up sleeping together. And then they start winning games. So then they decide, oh, sleeping together means we're going to win these games. So let's keep sleeping together for the sake and well-being of winning and our team. But let's just keep it on the DL. So that's kind of it for the book. It was very, very insta love, not too much happening. Unfortunately, this wasn't my favorites. I think the biggest thing I had with this novel was the pacing. So it was very telling the reader what was happening, what was going on, what that person was feeling versus showing us. I love a good spicy romance. This, I think, was too much of the spice and less of that angst, that tension, that build up that we love so much that makes a good romance. Just felt like there was no substance beyond them sleeping together. And for me, I just felt it was a little bit messy. So Kindle Unlimited, you can read it if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription. The fourth book that I read in January was this, Poison Roses by Jamin Eve and Tate James. We need to talk about this, friends. I had 2 best friends, Angelo and Jace, and they did everything together, and then something happened and none of them talk. She took off, they all went their separate ways. So Angelo is now part of the mafia, and he has just killed someone, and Billy witnessed this. So she takes off running. She's running all over the city, and she ends up in a back alley right outside of a nightclub. Runs into Rat. He instantly thinks she's gorgeous. He needs to protect her. Like, something's wrong. She's running from something. She's probably in a bad relationship, and he needs to save her. And soon enough, Billy realizes that Rat is a member of the band called Bellerose, and Boys of Bellerose is it a rock group or a pop band? But her old best friend Jace is a member of this group because Bellerose, Boys of Bellerose, is named after Billy Bellerose. So Jace is like, no, heck no, what is she doing here? And then Rhett and another member of this band, Grayson, over a few chapters, falling for Billy and needing to be her hero. And so she ends up going on tour so that Billy can run away from Angelo, who's in the mafia, and she has witnessed him kill someone. That is the plot. So this was a 1 star, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if I haven't already mentioned, I do not enjoy insta-lust, insta-love, and that is what this was. So they've only just met, and she slept with 2 of the members in the band, and now they are dropping possible hints of love in their inner monologues. And we don't know why they like Billy so much. All we can really gather from their point of views, because this is a multiple perspective. But a 1 star for me. I will not be continuing on with the series. This is on Kindle Unlimited. The next book that I read in January was The Hate Sick Diaries by Saffron A. Kent. I gave this one 3 stars. This book is about Echo and Rain, and Echo used to date Rain's best friend, and they are no longer dating. She's wanting to get him back. Things are happening. Echo is part of St. Mary's, and that's a school for girls and delinquents, and so she sneaks out, and that's where she runs into Rain, and that's kind of where their story happens. This is a big book, over 800 pages, and I have to say it just did not hit the spot. So I think the thing that bothered me the most about this is this all could have been cleared up with some communication, and for probably 780 pages before they were like, oh, let's have a conversation. So not her best. I did give it 3 stars because it just wasn't there. So that was unfortunate, but the writing was repetitive. I hate to say that. The spicy scenes are pretty cringy. A lot of the banter in the spicy scenes were like... The next book that I read, book number 6, was Thorn Princess by L.J. Shen. So this is a standalone enemies to lovers bodyguard romance. There were some things that I was kind of like, Allie is essentially a Hollywood princess. She is the daughter of an ex-president, and she is really running amok. She's always in the media, and it's not positive media attention. She's either drunk or she's flashing. It's really making her parents mad, to the point where they tell her, Hallie, if you don't change, we're cutting you off. You are going to have to be on your own, or you can start behaving and you can still live the lifestyle you're accustomed to. Make sure that you have a live-in bodyguard who's going to keep you out of trouble. This kind of was like, just did nothing for me, especially regarding the sexual experience of Hallie and then the sexual experience of Ransom. And Ransom was also a complete jerk for a lot of the book. Like, things that he was doing, I was like, well, if I was Hallie, like, I wouldn't even give him the time of day. Like, I did give this 3 stars. I did enjoy it, but now I have to share. Sinners, Condemned, Some Sketcher, best book of the month. I loved this, but Rafe and Penny have my heart, and I am definitely predicting this is going to be in at least the top 5 book of the year. It was that good. I jumped into this starting at book 2, not realizing this was actually a series. So I read book 2 and 3 because it was a continuation of Rafe and Penny's story, and then I went back and read book 1. So Sinners Condemned book 2 is about Rafe. He is the middle brother, and he owns a slew of casinos in Vegas. He's rich, he's lucky. He has some superstitions when it comes to luck, and I'm not going to give too much away about the superstitions because each brother, it links into their story. But Rafe has some superstitions, and at the beginning of the book, and this isn't like a spoiler or anything, he makes a choice between love and money, and he chose money. So he has been successful years later, and so superstition has always been his thing. He was told that there would be someone that would come into his life, and it would turn his life upside down, until Penny walked into a bar. Now, Penny, she is great. I absolutely loved her. She was strong. She was sassy, feisty, but she was also sweet and vulnerable. And I loved that part of her story, because through most of the book, we just see her as this feisty, sassy, strong female main character, that the sweet and vulnerable side come out on me. And so I really, really enjoyed that. So when they first meet, it's not a good meeting. Rafe cannot say no to a bet. He's a betting man. So that's kind of how their thing goes, is they make bets together, and you know it, they are no longer enemies, but they're friendly, and then you know how it goes from there. So this was great. Absolutely loved it. It's on Kindle Unlimited. Fantastic. Rafe and Penny, chef's kiss. Book number 3 in this series. This was so good. It was a little cliffhanger at the end of book 2, and so book 3 was just kind of the continuation of that, to see how that resolved itself. And I have to say, I so appreciated all the groveling and have the conclusion to their story. I hate when third act breakups happen and it's over after, that big epic speech and then they kiss and make up. No, this was painful. It was painful in a good way. Took a lot of the book for that to happen. So I just loved it. And I also love the side characters that are throughout this book series. I cannot wait for book 4. That's Ren and Gabe's story. Go check out Sinners Condemned. So because I loved books 2 and 3 so much of the Sinners Anonymous series, I decided to read book 1, Sinners Anonymous. I really should have read this first because it did not live up to the expectations that I had set, because I have just fallen head over heels for Rafe and Penny. This is the Sinners Anonymous series, and this is about 3 brothers whose parents have died and they kind of take on the family business. The eldest brother is Angelo Visconti. He is a made man, and his uncle Alberto is the head of the Cosa Nostra, which is the Italian mafia. Alberto is engaged to Rory, and she is set to marry him, and she does not want to. But she meets Angelo, and they start to fall for each other. But Rory is a good girl, is fairly new to all this. She's lived in the town for her whole life, so she does know who they are, but she is not associated with what they do. Then she meets Angelo at a family dinner, and things go from there. I did enjoy this book. It was a great setup for the series. Did wish I was able to read this first before I read books 2 and 3, because it did fall a little flat. But to get a look into Rafe from Angelo's perspective, as well as Gabe and the other side characters in here as well. So I'm looking forward to continuing on with this series. It was The Choice by Ashley Jade. I'm not going to talk too much about this book, because if you haven't read The Words by Ashley Jade, and that is maybe a book that you would like to read, I don't want to get too much into this and spoil anything for The Words. This is book 1 in the Stars Crossed Lovers duet. And this is the backstory of Skylar and Memphis, as well as the trio and the friendship between Skylar, Josh, and Memphis. So Skylar and Memphis meet when they're 13. They end up being neighbors, The whole book spans from when they were 13 until they're 18, and so we really get to see them grow up together. I think that's why we do love Memphis and Skylar so much, and why fans of Ashley Jade just can't wait for book 2, The Consequences, to see how their story evolves from when we last see them in the words. A childhood enemies, friends to lovers. It's also sort of a love triangle. So if you are not into that, or you don't like reading about love triangles, then you may not like this. But it's star-crossed lovers. We all know that, like Romeo and Juliet. There's also elements of abuse, trigger warning for sexual assault, childhood sexual assault, violence. I don't want to give too many more triggers away because it does kind of spoil the book. So I gave this 2 stars, and that's not to say it was bad. It was just that I had really, really high expectations after the words, and then all the build up over the last few months about the choice. That when I read it, it just kind of was very, for me, like the words, I was like, and this was just very, until, if you're a fan of Ashley Jade, highly recommend the words and then the choice. Check it out. Another favorite that I read, book number 11, was The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Carissa Broadbent is becoming one of my favorite fantasy romance authors. Rhea is the adopted human daughter of the Nightborn vampire king, and she is trying to carve out a place in this world where she can be respected, taken seriously as a human. She decides to enter the Kujari, which is a tournament held by the goddess of death. Rhea is forced to make alliances with others in order to survive and get as far as she can into this essentially tournament or competition where it's battle to the death, last one standing. We meet Rain, and he is a vampire. He's a killer, and he's also an enemy to her father's crown. So they form an unlikely alliance. They both have strengths that they can bring to each other. And as you know, forced proximity, I will say I loved it. I felt for Rain. He is the perfect book boyfriend. I want him. It ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, I guess I would say, and so book 2 is coming out soon, and I cannot wait. Highly recommend you pick up The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I gave this 5 stars. Loved the banter between Rhea and Rain. It was, I think, knowing that she's human and her own morality and immortality and how that plays in her world. I really, really liked seeing that side of her. I did not see the ending coming. That was like, I was screaming on the couch like, oh my God, no. So book 12 was Blood of My Monster by Raina Kent. Raina Kent, love her. So this book is no different. This is Blood of My Monster. This is book 1 in a new duet. This is another one of my most anticipated reads for January. This is about Sasha, who also goes by Alexander, and she's young, I think, late teens or very early 20s, and she's been in the military for the past 18 months, and she's been pretending to be a man because she's wanting to seek revenge, murder of her family members. So she feels that by getting the training and becoming a stronger person while also being in the military and being able to find out some information, she may be able to find out what happened to her family. Kirill, he is a cinnamon roll. He's supposed to be a big scary monster. That is not what I got from him at all. He was a slow burn, which I'm here for. So when Krill finds out that Sasha is actually not Alexander and is in fact a woman, then it's like, whoo. So there's the lingering looks, there's the banter, and things heat up in the best way. And this was very inspired by like Mulan. It really has those vibes. I'm excited for book 2. Book 1 left on a cliffhanger. I love the nicknames. I love the Russian nicknames and all the language, and it's, I did give this 5 stars, and I can't wait to see what Rena does with this series. Book number 13 was Eyes on Me by Sarah Kate. This is book 2 in the Salacious Players Club series. I have read all of these out of order, and to be honest, I have DNF'd every single one, but I decided to give this one a go just because I really liked the concept of the cam girl, the forbidden romance, stepbrother, stepsister, the taboo. So I really was hoping for a dunk here. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Garrett and Mia are stepbrother and stepsister. For the last few years, they haven't really got together, and this is just because they've never really gotten along. One night, Garrett is browsing online. He is into voyeurism, so he doesn't like participating, but he does like watching. He comes across this cam girl site. Who he thinks is Mia, his stepsister. Clicks on the video and he is hooked. So she is staying with their mom and dad, so he decides to go for a visit to see them, and Mia doesn't realize that she has been performing and talking to Garrett online. He's using a different name. So while she is maybe having feelings for this online persona, she's also starting to have feelings for Garrett, her stepbrother, who is showing interest in her. They're becoming flirty, and it kind of goes from there. There was no slow burn, no tension building. I felt it was very insta-lovey. It's okay to have attraction, and then it almost felt that it very quickly became into, like I have deep feelings. Will have feelings because that is your sister, but the feelings that you are describing are happening like really fast. So there's no tension, no angst. I didn't really like that. I felt the conflict of the whole situation in itself, the incident that really forced them to be together. I didn't like that at all. I just thought it was lacking and it was very weak. So I give this 2 stars. It really did like Mia as a character. I thought, good for her. It really brought sex positivity, which I think is fantastic. And the last book that I read for January, book number 14, was The Maddest Obsession by Danielle Laurie. This is book number 2 in the Maid series. Gianna, she is affiliated with the mafia, and she is utter chaos. Ends up meeting Christian Allister. Christian is a dirty FBI agent who is working for this mafia family, and that's where he meets Gianna. It really was a situation of wrong time, wrong place, so they were never able to be in a relationship, but there was always that tension, that angst. Christian has OCD tendencies, and we see this through the book. He's also in the book speaking with a therapist, and Gianna, the complete opposite of Christian, who is so tidy, clean. Gianna is chaotic, she's feisty, she's bubbly. Gianna was so witty and sassy, and Christian was just very dry, like that. He really just became a cinnamon roll. Like really loved that he knew he had feelings for Gianna, but he didn't force Gianna to be with him. That meant, she was with other men or had other relationships, whether she was in committed ones or not. He never forced her to be with him, and I really, really loved that. It was really sex positive as well, and he never judged her for, maybe sleeping with however many men until he was with her. And this was on Kindle Unlimited. Go check it out. Well, friends, that is it. Thank you so much. 14 books for my January wrap up. Reading month, I have to say, I read some fantastic books and I read some duds, but overall, I think it was a really good reading month. I'm really excited to see how February pans out. So far, it's been great, so I can't wait to share that with you. And I just want to say thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you like this video, then please think about subscribing, hitting that like button, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Until next time, thank you again. Bye-bye.